time this season. We are in Irwindale, California, the House of Drift. This is the O'Reilly Auto Parts title fight, sponsored by Gumout. This is round 8 of 8 of the Formula Drift Championship, presented by Blackview Dash Cams. With you once again, my name is Jared Dienda, and my co-host and great friend, Ryan Sage. Ryan, it's hot out there, but some ideal conditions for some spectacular driving.
Yeah, certainly we saw a lot of surface changes yesterday. There were some varying track conditions from going from the very, very hot into not so hot at night. Drivers, certainly their scores down. We didn't see too many in the 90s, but we had a really good qualifying session yesterday. But today, the essence of drifting, top 32. We're about to kick it off and find out who will be our champion and world champion here tonight.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because we focus so much on the championship and the world championship, but this is such an iconic track. It just bears repeating because even just walking through the pits, I'm seeing a lot of Irish drivers, British drivers, drivers from all across the globe. They're watching in person, either here. I mean, it comes down to 3 drivers overall in the championship, but some drivers, again, trying to go for that top spot.
With another strong run, but wasn't able to finish it out. You can see right here just tapping that wall. It was able to get him into 5th place in a good position in the bracket, and he's hoping to do well here as he has in the past.
Qualifying number 4, a contender, and coming into this round as our current points leader, Chris the Force Forsberg.
Well, Forsberg just outside of the opportunity to go right into the top 16. The challenge for Forsberg, as I see it, is that he's on the same side of the bracket as Gittin Jr. Now, if those two make it into the top 16, they will face each other, and that right there, I think, is going to be a key moment in the championship.
That could echo throughout today's dialogue. So, Forrest Wang qualifying 3rd, bringing up kind of picking the scab a little bit. Forsberg and Wang. Wang gets one of those golden tickets, fast pass into the top 16.
Well, another interesting story here with Forrest Wang is, after a detonated motor on the practice day, Wang brings his backup car all the way here to Irwindale, was able to lock in that number 3rd spot, showing that he's still got it. He's been on the podium here. He's one to watch.
Qualifying at number 2 in the O'Reilly's Auto Parts Gumout Nameless Performance 2 JZ powered SR by Toyota 86, Ryan Turk.
Well, Ryan Turk, changing the livery from event to event to accommodate different sponsors, certainly understanding what it takes to be a leader in the marketing game, but right here laying down that number 2 qualification spot. He'll have a bye, and guess what? He's on the same side of the bracket as Gushi once again.
Yeah, those guys have some of the most amazing battles. And look at these chassis. I mean, the BRZ, the 86, and they are 1 and 2. Dio Shihara, Formula Drift veteran, really turning it up. And if you look at Turkey, look at Dai's run, they just have a certain X factor. They have this impact. Look at him on that second outside clip. It looks amazing.
Well, 89 points was the highest total of the day, and Daijiro Yoshihara did it on the very first run. He's able to go down, hold everybody off, and become your number 1 qualifier.
So some exciting run. The track has been modified. Let's say massaged a little bit from previous years. They've created some just more looseness. We'll get to that in a little bit. But overall, those are your top 5 qualifiers. Chris Forsberg, coming into this round, his rise to the top, where he stands now, where he stands at the end of the night, we'll find out. It all began in Long Beach. He lost to Chelsea DeNova, and it's pretty amazing for Chelsea what he's done this year.
Well, the key for Chris Forsberg has really been about consistency. He does not have a win this year, and it's quite possible that if he doesn't win tonight, he still might win the championship. He's always talked about trying to finish in the Great 8 or better. That's what you need for a campaign to win a championship in Formula Drift. He was able to do that in pretty much every single round. 6 podiums. I mean, so consistent, and he was part of the hit heard round the world that echoed through not only the drift world, but all over the place. He was able to go up against Gittin Jr., not able to beat him here. And I think for the championship chase, if those guys meet each other in the top 16, Chris and Von will both certainly be thinking about those runs.
Yeah, coincidentally, Gittin Jr. with the monster green hit him practically his kryptonite, just could not take him out. He finally, him and Aasbo, this was in, I believe in Texas, right? That's what we're looking at here, which was pretty dynamic. But Forsberg has just been one to watch, and multiple podiums. A dynamic run for him in Montreal, getting on the podium once again. He had 4 second-place events in a row.
Well, we've seen Forsberg. He's been able to look like the best driver of the weekend, especially in places like Canada and Seattle. But then just making some small, minor mistakes. He did the same thing against Matt Field in the finals in Texas, and he hasn't been able just to get all the way to the end. He's driven phenomenally, but not able to close the door and get that win. But nonetheless, he still is on top of the points chase, and he's looking to capture his 3rd ever title here tonight.
So being aggressive, being consistent, the 3 drivers that are really going for it, Forsberg, Aasbo, and Gittin. Speaking of Aasbo, his rise to stardom, not only this year, last year, but just collectively, seeing him for the first time ever in the Red Bull Drifting World Championships a few years ago, getting out of the seat of that Supra, picking up the steering wheel and the seat of Tanner Faust, who's a big seat to fill, and he does it just, with class.
Well, Aasbo, I think the story from him is that he is driven very, very precise and calculated. He has an excellent spotter, an excellent fabricator, an engine builder, and Stefan Papadakis, and those two really go through footage after the events and understand what they need to do. They do it like a football team to see what the tendencies of their competitors are and figure out what they need to do to get wins. And Aasbo has been able to get wins, more wins than anybody in the short period of time. He's already got a championship. He's very much in the championship chase in second place, and he's able to take advantage of other people's mistakes. It's something that Aasbo's learned well, and if he finds himself deep into competition, you can bet that he's going to be looking for number 2.
How the pressure mounts on him and how he's going to handle it is going to be really interesting, because you can play coulda, shoulda, woulda with Vaughn, who's in third. You can play with Chris Forsberg, but I think you really play with Frederick Aasbo, because when he makes those mistakes, it's just a big straightening. He's really not leaving it in the judge's hands when he has those big mistakes. His inconsistencies have left him 36 points behind Chris Forsberg.
And it's not a lot to overcome. I mean, yes, every driver is going to make mistakes, but I think more so than others, what you see from the Gittins, from the Forsberg, and from the Aasbo is more general consistency. And with Aasbo, he's turned his consistency into wins, and that's made the difference for him. That's why he's still in striking distance. Chris is in first place with all those seconds, but we are seeing a very, very solid battle for the championship, and the way that the bracket is broken up, something crazy will happen here tonight.
And the vibe, speaking with some people in the pits and the paddock, I think Aasbo's a bit nervous. I think Chris Forsberg's a little settled, and Vaughn, in his style, he's just going to kind of pound on his chest. I know he talked about it even before it eventually happened, but he wanted to go against Forsberg and not leave it in the judge's hands or any other driver's fate's hands. But let's look at comparatively Frederick Aasbo and Chris Forsberg. Taking a look at the stats here, Ryan.
Well, this is really interesting when you look at the career of Chris Forsberg versus the career of Frederick Aasbo. Forsberg 8 wins, Aasbo 8 wins. Championships 2 to Forsberg, 1 to Aasbo. He's looking for his second back-to-back. Podiums, you can see here that they have 6 podiums for Forsberg in 2016, 3 for Aasbo, but remember those wins. Now, this is an interesting statistic here. Forsberg has not won since 4-5-14, and since that time, Aasbo has had an 8-2 record in the finals. So, though Forsberg is leading the championship, he hasn't been able to get that win. Meanwhile, Aasbo's been racking up those wins, and he's right up there with Vaughn and Chris for all time.
It's a very interesting story that's unfolded. And again, it's going to be under the lights who wins here at Irwindale, and then ultimately who wins the championship and the world championship. Let's take a look at the standings. As we said, it bears repeating. Forsberg, Aasbo, Gittin, Odi Bakshi. He's just been a slow, silent kind of creeper. And then you look at Matt Field. What an interesting fellow. He gets his first ever win at the previous round to here in Texas. Ken Gushi, Dio Shihara, Forrest Wang, and he had that quick little retirement. Alec Honadel on his 3rd season, really making a name for himself, definitely young gun. And then Tyler Rock McCoy, so many disciplines underneath his belt.
And we're here with Judge Ryan Lantane. Now, Ryan, yesterday we talked a little bit about the qualifying criteria, what you guys are looking for. Today is the head-to-head matchups, what we call the essence of drifting. So the event format today breaks down as follows. Tell us about that.
So each driver will get to do a run in the lead position and in the chase position. That way they get to really show off their skills, their talents, their abilities in both of those positions. And we're going to judge what we see. There are 3 judges, and we're going to look at who we think won out of both of those runs. We can choose driver A, we can choose driver B, or we can choose one more time. And if we do one more time, then they have to go at it again and prove who's the best on their second attempt.
Give us just a general overview of the track layout for this year and maybe some of the small changes that you guys have made.
So as per usual, we have 5 different scored zones on this track. You can see here by this map that we've changed the track compared to last year slightly. So the thick blue line would be what we're looking at this year. You can see it's really just that last corner that changes near the very end. And like I was saying, there are 5 scored zones, and 2 of those zones are actually broken up into 2 sections. So essentially 7 scored areas, as you can see on this map right here. That's what we did for qualifying. Now going into 10, and we're going to be judging them overall as they're able to get through the course. Are they getting on the right line? Are they maintaining the right angle? And are they maintaining momentum? Are they making any corrections throughout the course? So we have 2 outside zones and, well, essentially 3 outside zones with 2 inside clips.
One of the most important things that we didn't talk about yesterday because it wasn't as relevant is what you guys are calling the acceleration-deceleration map. What does the green and red mean on this map?
So the green on this map would be where you expect a car to be on throttle, accelerating, maintaining a pace even throughout that green section. And when you look at those red little areas right there, that's where you'd expect the lead car to either slow, use the e-brake, the handbrake, or slow down using the brakes, or just maybe just lifting off throttle. The first little one at the very top there would be initiation. So there, some drivers are clutch kicking, some are feinting, some are e-braking to initiate. So there's a bit of a slowdown there. Then we have a slowdown going into outside zone 2. And during the very last meeting, just prior to this, we actually changed and put one small little zone of a slowdown just at inside clip 2. So there's just a slight little area there where we'd expect maybe some of the cars to get off throttle there. Some downshift, some slow down, some lift off throttle just slightly, but it is an area where we want other drivers to be aware that there could be a possible slowdown.
One of the most important things in order to get the drivers into the first corner together is the chicane and the lanes that we have painted on this track. What do those represent, and what should fans know about those particular items?
Well, if you're looking at the chicane at this track, there's a big chunk of concrete, as you can see on the screen right now. That's going to make the drivers have to drive around that little piece of concrete to slow them down in the lead position, because we don't want to have an actual drag race down the acceleration lane. We want that chase car to be able to maintain proximity. Now the chase car can jump the light at any time they want, at any point in time, but the lead car has to adhere to start line rules and regulations, which means they have to leave the line when the light goes off entirely.
Now, the lead driver and chase driver have what you guys are what you call basically responsibilities. We know what the lead driver needs to do. What are those responsibilities in particular that you're looking for from the lead driver?
So the lead driver needs to adhere to our 100-point qualifying run. They have to try to make that 100-point qualifying run while they're leading the chase car around the course. So they need to initiate at the right place with a good angle right away. They need to get all those zones filled. They have to hit all the inside clips. I don't mean physically hit them, but get really close to them. Get nice and tight on those inside clips, and they have to do this without making those corrections that I talked about. And they can't try to get away from the chase car. They have to make sure that they're fulfilling their lead car duties.
The chase car obviously has his version of responsibilities. What does that look like from the chase driver's perspective?
So the chase driver needs to maintain proximity throughout the course, and he also has to mimic the lead driver, imitating, whatever word you want to use, the angle, the line, the pace, and the transition. When you see them transitioning together on the track, it really looks like they're in sync. It looks like that driver is really able to adapt and follow that lead driver really, really well. And that chase driver is expected to follow the lead driver, even if they're not in the right place on the track. Of course, not in a dangerous area, but in an area where the lead driver is maybe off the outside zone a little bit, the chase driver should be following them there as well.
This year, you guys have coined a new term, unchaseable lead. Now, for fans that have not followed the series and new fans that are coming in, what does it mean for a driver to have an unchaseable lead?
Well, if a lead driver is making a lot of errors in the lead position, a lot of corrections, kind of wobbling all over the track, maybe losing drift slightly, not enough to zero it out, but kind of looks really poor. The speed is also changing drastically throughout the track, or if they go off course, tire off here and there multiple times, it could be very difficult to chase, and we're not trying to give them the benefit of giving them a score for that. So we're going to make it an unchaseable lead, which is essentially a 0, because that chase car has no chance to really follow that lead run.
Sometimes a driver in the lead position might overshoot an inside clip, and sometimes we'll see passing. What is the definition of a legal pass in Formula Drift?
So a legal pass can only be performed at an inside clip. You cannot do it anywhere else on the track. That lead driver must be offline or going off course or off course completely. The chase driver can only make that pass on the inside of the lead driver. Like I said, only at an inside clipping point. And they have to remain on that correct line. So if the lead driver goes way off, the chase driver can say, hey, I could stay right on that line I'm supposed to stay on. Then they can do so. And then once they've made that legal pass, the chase driver will then become the lead driver and has to complete the course in drift as well. When that occurs, the chase driver gets the lead, and that lead driver then falls back and gets a 0 for that run.
Now, finally, there's what we like to determine as absolute zeros. These are things that are very easy to understand. There's a list of them in qualifying, but also in tandem.
So the qualifying list is pretty short compared to the actual tandem one that you see here. Some of them do carry over, just a few. Spinning out, of course, is a complete loss of control of the car, so that would be a 0. Opposite drift, which means that you have angle in the opposite direction that you should at that point on the track. And the anything latchable opening, hood, hatch, trunk, anything like that, doors on the car that can open up during a run, if they do, then that's a 0 as well. Now, adding to that in the tandem side of things is a collision that's considered unavoidable, or any kind of unsportsmanlike behavior during the tandem battle. That can result in a 0 if that driver is deemed unsportsmanlike. A chase driver that is intentionally not chasing very closely to that lead driver. Let's say that other driver zeroed out on his previous run or had a very poor run. Now the other driver's in the back and he says, I don't really have to follow so close. I probably have this in the bag. So we don't like to see that. We want them to be pushing as hard as they can. So if we deem them for not actually intentionally chasing, that could be a 0 as well. And then 3 consecutive restarts. Performing an illegal pass. You could pass in the wrong spot on the track. You could absolutely get a 0 for that. And getting legally passed, as I just mentioned, will also result in a 0.
Well, Ryan Lantain, our judge here, breaking it down, giving you guys some insight to the criteria that they're looking for in the head-to-head competition today. You are watching the O'Reilly's title fight, sponsored by Gum Out, here at round 8 of the Formula Drift Championship, presented by Blackview Dash Cameras.
Welcome. We are here at the final round. That is the O'Reilly Auto Parts title fight, sponsored by Gum Out. This is the final round of the Formula Drift Championship, presented by Blackview Dash Cameras. And we have our first driver, our #1 qualifier. He has an automatic buy. We have 3 drivers, as I like to call it, the fast pass, the golden ticket. We had 29 drivers qualify overall yesterday, so that means, basically 1, 2, and 3 have automatic advancing into the top 16. So here's our #1 qualifier, Dayo Shihara. Ryan, he put down an amazing run yesterday in that LS-powered, turbocharged, turn 14 distribution Falcon tire Subaru BRZ. So Dayo Shihara, it's great to see him. We saw him on the podium earlier this year, and he looked great yesterday.
Yeah, and he held that #1 position the entire walk of qualifying. Got that 89 on his first run, and nobody was able to surpass him. Usually we see scores into the 90s, but people are dealing with track changes, and also I gotta feel that there's probably a little bit of nerves out there as well. Final event of the year. Checkers or wreckers for a lot of the guys, and they're saving it as much as they can for the part of competition that really, really matters.
And look at this, Dayo Shihara utilizing this run. I mean, that was almost identical to his qualifying run. So as you can see, that we are turning and burning our Falcon tires here for Dayo Shihara on his buy run. Dayo Shihara advances on to the top 16. He is our #1 qualifier. As I said, there were 3 drivers. If you are watching, we are live here at Irwindale Speedway, the House of Drift, an iconic track. The likes of Indy, Monaco, Talladega, whatever motorsport you follow. If it's Crandon in the off-road world, if it's the south of the border, if it's the Baja 1000. This, I truly believe, Ryan, would you agree that this is like one of the most watched drifting events in the world?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's got to go on record, right?
Certainly one of the most watched, certainly one of the most iconic, and it has such a storied history that goes way back to 2003 when the first ever event came here, and it's been the place where the season ends every year since that point. Crazy things happen here, so many memories, and history, no matter who wins the championship tonight, will be made, whether it's Aasbo, Gittin, or Forsberg.
Look at that. It's 1, 2, or 3. Or no, I guess it's 2, 2, or 3. Because with Frederick Aasbo with the target on his back this season, I mean, would you say that? Would you kind of agree with that Aasbo had the target on his back with just such a phenomenal season last year?
I think every champion has a target on their back. People are always trying to take down the champion. Aasbo in particular, because he's had such a great season so far this year, has put himself in a position to do what Tanner Faust did in 2007 and 2008. And his team, Papadakis Racing, will have been the only team that has ever done something like that. Once with Tanner Faust and then once with Frederick Aasbo.
Yeah, that'd be 4 championships if Aasbo wraps it up. No team has done that. And because we always talk about the driver, but you got to think, who is the backbone? Who is the kind of orchestrator of that team? Because you have the mechanics, you have the technicians. If it's suspension, engine, fabricators, all that. No team has done it.
Yeah, and Stefan Papadakis is definitely the marionette of Papadakis Racing, and he's certainly done a tremendous job with that vehicle, and they are fighting again for a championship.
So we keep reiterating about the championship, what's going on, but we're just warming things up, literally and figuratively. It is definitely hot out here, and also that we're just warming up the tires. We're in top 32. Here's supposed to be our first battle. We see Jeff Stoneback to the line, but no Ryman Ishida. And there, I'm seeing him pull from the start grid. The debut of a new car, hasn't really panned out the way it has, like for Vaughn Gittin Jr.
Well, and Vaughn has expressed that you could do a brand new chassis. There's not a lot of a back catalog of data that you have to run this year, and in the moments that he's had, especially in round 2 and the other events that he's gone far into competition, have looked very 2010-esque. When he did what Forsberg did, this year in only 7 rounds with 6 podiums.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so here's our next battle. Jeff Stoneback, Robbie, Bushido Blade Nishida. Stoneback leads. The Hankook Tire Shroud at 370Z. Robbie Nishida drops into formation. Our first battle here. That is the title fight. Stoneback, good job. Right behind the bank, tapping the wall, bringing it back down. That indicator there, but there is the first front clip as they pass it. And then we are seeing Stoneback dropping that second rear clipping zone, bringing out a line keeper. Nishida lacked an angle there as Stoneback brings it all the way through the finish line. So it seemed that Stoneback was doing the right things, and Nishida fell back a little bit, not as much confidence or force.
Well, as we bring in the third member of our commentating booth, Ryan Lantain, we take a look at the lead run from Jeff Stoneback. It certainly seems that he had a pretty solid lead run out front, trying to take advantage of that higher qualifying position.
He looked really strong in the beginning. Robbie looked really strong in the beginning too, but unfortunately coming by inside clip 1, he fell off. His line was not where he wasn't on the right line after that point. Pretty much his proximity really fell off, and unfortunately Robbie kind of didn't put together the run that he should have in the latter portion of the course. But Jeff Stoneback did a great job in the lead position.
He looked really confident there.
He did, yeah, and I was really, we both kind of went whoa up here when Robbie initiated so aggressively behind Jeff Stoneback. It looked really great. It's just unfortunate that he wasn't able to maintain that throughout the rest of the track.
Yeah, Nishida, just a very fun-loving driver, a great guy. He got to kind of change positions in Formula of Japan. He was a judge. I think he learned a lot from a different perspective. But, being a judge and scrutinizing the runs, he learned a lot. It's not, he doesn't envy you guys in your position. So we are seeing a red flag here, and it is a red flag. And didn't see a cone knocked over. I wasn't focusing exactly on. But we've instituted the start chicane over the past few years. Ryan, maybe elaborate a little bit on that. Ryan Sage?
Yeah, we've instituted the chicane in order to try and attempt to get the drivers into
keyword try
to get them into the first corner as close together as possible. We're looking to put on a show here. We don't want to see drivers run away from each other, and the chicane for the lead driver gives them basically another half beat, maybe even a beat slower, to get through that section of the course, while the chase driver can go in a straight line, and it allows the chase driver just to butt up right against the lead driver, hopefully enter as close together as possible and to put on the best potential tandem. But because we've instituted that, sometimes drivers will hit cones or they'll jump the light, and then that's why we have the 3-strike rule.
Maybe elaborating even a bit more on that. Looks like we're getting a flatbed out here, so Robbie Nishida might have a bigger issue than a restart. But so again, the lead car cannot jump the light. The chase car can jump the light in order to just basically compensate for maybe a horsepower difference or a grip difference or what they think, because sometimes it doesn't work out. You'll see the chase car jump, and then they're ahead of them, and their strategy. Let's be honest, their strategy coming into play, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, something like the chicane is an equalizer. You try to, as a sanctioned body, would you consider it an equalizer?
It definitely is an equalizer, and the chase driver is able to use that to his advantage in order to get as close together to the lead driver as possible.
Welcome back, Drift fans. Just getting some clarity on the situation there. Robbie Nishida leaves the start line. Ryan?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're hearing from down on the pit lane that Robbie Nishida has broken, so he is bowing out of competition. Because Jeff Stoneback left the line, his car was operational. That means that he does not have to do a bye, and then he will move on to the top 16.
That was the second run. He's not bowing out. His car, unfortunately, broke, so he has to get that defeat handed over to him. So Stoneback, with obviously not having to do much work there, not even burning up his Hankook tires there. Unfortunately for Robbie Nishida, pulls away from the start line, breaks. So that concludes that battle. Jeff Stoneback advances on to the top 16. Daiyo Shihara, Jeff Stoneback, already in the top 16. Now, our next battle. This should be a fun one to watch, man. 2 BMWs, 2 very fierce drivers, one a former champion, one grabbing his first ever Formula podium this year in his sophomore season from Latvia. That is Christos Blues. So, Ryan, this should be fun. You look at Essa, he's back behind the wheel of a BMW. Then you got the Latvian lover, as I like to call him, Christos Blues. He was one clipping point away from grabbing not only his first podium, which he got, but his first win against Frederick Aasbo. The stars were aligning in Orlando.
And Aasbo would certainly have a bigger hill to climb this weekend.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda, man.
If Kristaps had made that last left-hand turn into that final inside clip in Orlando. But here we are now, Kristaps Blus, Michael Essa. You can see these guys have done battle once so far, with Kristaps Blus taking that win. Both cars pretty evenly matched there in the horsepower department, but both drivers very specific and unique styles, and pretty awesome to see two BMWs down there competing against each other.
Yeah, Mike Essa, you know, he has a road race background. He's been in drifting for quite some time. He campaigned an FC for a minute, a Mazda, and then he campaigned a Chevrolet Camaro last year, and said, you know what, loudmouth exhaust, they liked what he had to offer. Achilles Radio likes what he does, so boom, brings it back together. Then that of Kristaps Blus comes out, the HGK Racing team, and he's just really risen to the occasion. He's on the Achilles Radials as well, and I gotta say, I like Kristaps' style. They have two different styles. I would say Michael has a bit smoother. Kristaps just, I don't want to say violent, just more aggressive.
European Daigo.
European Daigo, okay.
That's what I'm going with.
Nah, Daigo has that pulsing kind of style. I think. Ooh, and just as I say that, Kristaps, he's got some wavering there. So Michael Essa, nice and tight. Well executed there by Essa on initiation. Kristaps past that front flip, and Mike Essa pulling away. Oh, getting into the wall. Staying out of that smoke trail is Kristaps Blus, but it does not fare him well, because it's showing that he is not in the same line. So these guys powering through that finish line, and Kristaps just not as aggressive as we've seen from the past. Maybe just didn't get the jump.
Well, taking a look at the replay here, you can see that Michael Essa gets a nice jump up here. He's nice and high on the bank. Kristaps makes an adjustment to get up on the line that Essa is. Essa leaves the box. It's Kristaps trying to find an area to tuck in here. You can see he passes through that inside clip, and then Ryan bringing you in here as we come down into the inside bank. Essa's going to push a little bit hard here, leave the door open, and miss that inside clip right into the last turn.
Yeah, definitely some mistakes from both drivers on this run. It looked like Essa had a really good outside zone one, but as you saw, Kristaps really made a mistake when he initiated. He was down low. He wasn't in the proximity as much as he should have been, but he got back up. But then Essa overshot inside clip 2 by staying on outside zone 2 a little bit too long, it looked like. So they both made a couple of little mistakes. It's going to be up to Kristaps now to really show his dominance, I guess, in the lead position, and see if he can get away and do a little bit more than Essa can do in his lead run.
Kristaps will now lead, as Ryan Lontaine just said. See if he steps up, rises to the occasion. I mean, with that simple modification or massaging of the track that the judges did, they know this track. Lontaine, you also did say that front clip, that first front clip, you did move, let's call it higher on the bank, so it's not as drastic dropping down in that front clip.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as much of a corner, I guess you can say. They go across it more straight than in previous years.
Let's see how they handle it. Kristaps out front. Essa in chase. Kristaps initiates. Alternating the rolls here as Kristaps brings it down into that front clip that we just spoke about. Big angle there. Nice job, Essa. Some wavering there from Kristaps into that secondary clipping zone. You see him dropping down. Essa bringing it out to the outside wall. Using all the course is Essa. Tight to that front clip, powering through the finish line. There it is. Essa and Kristaps. Ryan, did Essa do enough? Did Kristaps offset kind of a lackluster chase?
Well, this is one of those runs where, just on first base using your intuition, it's kind of hard to see a real advantage here. I think Essa had the better of the lead, but you can see the gap established here by Kristaps. Now, Kristaps going to straighten out a little bit right there for a second, but you can see that gap established by Kristaps as he's able to wrap around this last turn, stay tight on this inside clip. Definitely very, very functional for him. But Ryan, from your perspective, anybody clearly leaning in one side or the other from your perspective?
Well, like I said, in the first run, they did both make some mistakes. And in this run, it looked like Kristaps had a pretty good lead run. He did have that bobble going into outside zone 2. But there was a pretty big lack of proximity from Mike Essa that was not apparent when Kristaps was chasing him. So I think that'll weigh probably on the judges, on the other two judges.
Interesting. All right, so here we go. Kristaps and Essa slide him left for Blus, right for Essa, and Kristaps gets Andy's vote. Ryan says one more time, and Brian says Mike Essa, so it's across the board. So Ryan Lontaine, what do you contribute that to? I mean, you guys are spread out there. You can see Andy one more time, Brian.
Yeah, it comes down to what you're looking at specifically, I guess. Like, I looked at the lack of proximity from Essa. It didn't look like there was a major reason for him to not have the proximity. We have the chicane in place. We have everything in place to give these guys all the opportunity to have the proximity that they, as much proximity as they can get, basically, throughout the run. And he just didn't have what I thought he should.
In Seattle, or just outside of Seattle, Monroe, Washington, at Evergreen Speedway. a really fun driver to watch, and just seemed that he was comfortable, he was having fun, and just became apparent seeing him drive. Wow, look at him coming out like a bat out of hell, out of that start chicane. Matt Kaufman seems like he is possessed right now, the Finnish driver. Welcome back. As you can see, Los Angeles off in the distance. We're here at IRWINDALE Speedway, the House of Drift. We are live here with the top 32. Thank you for your patience here. Little technical difficulties, and we are back to, you did not miss anything outside of Juha Rintanen advancing on. Matt Kaufman threw it in hard, went into the wall, giving Juha Rintanen that victory in that battle. So now we're revisiting the one more time battle of Blues and Essa. So again, Juha Rintanen does advance on as Matt Kaufman threw it hard in that chase run, takes himself out as he goes into the wall and handing the victory to Juha Rintanen. And here's the one more time battle against Essa and Blues. Essa will lead. He qualified 8th yesterday compared to that of Christoph's Blues qualifying 25th as Christoph's warming up his tires. HGK Racing Team BMW Mass Motorsports V8 under the hood. So you can see, so here we are again, Ryan, if you can recount Essa and Blues. I think the chase run is where kind of, you know, it was split. Remember, it was Blues, Essa, and one more time.
Yeah, all the judges were basically voted individually on that one. One more time, one for Blues, one for Essa, and one more time ensued. But yeah, certainly both drivers had some mistakes. Essa lacking the proximity, but a good lead run, and Blues making a few mistakes in the lead run. You know, we are where we are with the one more time battle.
So here we are. Essa will lead. Blues will give chase. One more time. Can hear the V8 there on the start line. That's under the hood of Blues' vehicle. Essa running a BMW power plant under the hood of his vehicle. All right, Essa out of the start chicane. Here we go. Look at that, Essa already lighting him up. Blues looking a lot more settled, a lot more comfortable there, mimicking Essa's line. Essa high and tight, Blues gaining proximity, getting gangster with it as he straightens out. He centers that front clip, continues through the course, obviously centering that front clip. Now into that final front clip and powering through the finish line. Ryan, this track is going to make for some dynamic runs throughout today and into the evening.
Well, you can see the driver certainly pushing it here. Michael Essa continuing again, taking that high line nice and high on the bank, doing a great job there. Christoph's on a little bit of a lower line, but certainly very tight on proximity. He closes the door, loses a little distance there, and then makes a mistake by center lining that inside clip. Now, Ryan, from your perspective, is that going to be an off line for Christoph's Blues?
Yeah, that'll be a deduction in our eyes. Individually, we're going to look at it slightly differently, of course, you know, but he did hit it with the front of the car pretty aggressively, I'd say. So that's what happens when you take a different line on outside zone 1 and you don't quite get lined up properly for that transition, and you miscalculated a little bit, got his car in the wrong position. He rotated a little early and ended up into that clip. So it's really important to set up outside zone 1 to be able to finish the rest of the course. If you're auto
that first front clip.
Well, he was low. You saw right at initiation he was a lot lower than Michael Essa was, and he remained lower all the way through the course, and then he got choked up. But that's what happens when you're in the wrong spot, because if you're a little bit lower, what happens is you end up catching up when that lead car comes off the wall, and then that's what kind of choked him up. So you have to get...
Welcome back. Thank you for your patience. As again, we're having a bit of technical difficulty, so thank you for your patience, both online, in the building, spotters, teams, and want to let everybody know that you have not missed a battle. We delayed the action, so thank you for your patience. As again, we're having technical difficulties on the live stream side of things. So if we'll get you up to snuff if the internet goes down again. But basically, Chris Forsberg and Farooq are about to go down. So again, Forsberg and Farooq Kuge qualifying in that final 29th spot, and it was what was the score? It was a 42. So what's interesting for, you know, Ryan, going through your head, I mean, Chris Forsberg, you can see the stats here. These guys have never gone against each other. You look at the winning percentage, 69.5 compared to 22.2%. Farooq, this is his freshman season, and he's going for Rookie of the Year. But if you look yesterday to today, Forsberg going for a championship. Farooq, very inconsistent. How do you handle that if you're somebody like Chris Forsberg?
Yeah, well, if Farouk's vehicle, was struggling the way that it was yesterday, today, then, Chris certainly needs to go out there, lay down a solid, clean lead run, and try to give himself a little bit to work with on the chase run, not knowing exactly what might happen to Farouk's vehicle. It's certainly going to be a challenge for him, but Chris is a very calculated driver. He should know what he needs to do here. He's got a great spotter, so we'll see this battle go underway.
All right, so Chris Forsberg will lead. Chris Forsberg qualifying 4th, Farooq qualifying 29th. Chris Forsberg just outside of that top 3 in order to get a fast pass in top 16. Now he's got to earn it. As you can see, Forsberg throwing it hard into the wall, showing his dominance, not leaving the judge's hands. And Farooq, unfortunately, down on the bank. And here comes Forsberg into that second rear clipping zone. Farooq bringing into the second rear, way off of the rear clipping zone. Now tightening back up about that 3rd hash mark. And Farooq narrowly powering over the finish line. I mean, that was just a scotch, and he would have been off.
Well, like you said, Jared, Chris just needs to go out and lay down a solid, clean lead run. It looks like he does that here. Now, Ryan, from your perspective, in this next run here, what is the strategy that Chris needs to impose? I said maybe give a little bit of room to Farooq and allow himself to be able to make some maneuvers, but what from your perspective?
Well, we've been watching all of the practice sessions from Thursday till today, and Farooq has been a little bit lower than most of the drivers on outside zone 1 and outside zone 2, so I would expect that his spotter would have informed him of that. He would have probably seen it himself in practice, though he knows that he's going to have to drive a little bit lower on the bank, but he's still going to have to try to maintain proximity and drift in that situation. But we know that if Farooq does drive lower than that, he's going to be at a disadvantage in that situation, so it's up to Chris to just maintain drift behind him and not get too close to him to cause any kind of issue.
So already into the top 16, Daijiro Yoshihara with that bye run. Jeff Stoneback defeated Robin Ishida. Christos Blues, after one more time, took out Michael Essa. And Juha Rintanen went against Matt Kaufman, and Juha Rintanen getting the victory. So only 4 drivers in the top 16. Who's going to join him? Farooq will now lead. Chris Forsberg will give chase. So again, strategy coming into play here for Forsberg as Farooq initiates. Way down the bank, Farooq straightens. And just a very lackluster run, very hard act to follow here for Forsberg. Farooq turns it back up. And Ryan, we talked about this, or I should say the judges talked about this in the drivers' meeting. At what point do you stop drifting? I mean, that was really low. You had a big straightening. Technically, Farooq's lead run. Does that equate to a 0?
I mean, Chris is a veteran enough driver to know when a 0 in front of him has taken place. But what the judges really say specifically is that if the vehicle becomes stationary, if it spins out or if it's into a wall, you don't need to drift by it. Right. In this case, Farooq clearly made a 0 out on the bank, but then he reinitiated, and Chris, smartly just chip in and chased him down. So it should be a big advantage for Chris after the mistake on the bank from Farooq, and he should have one driver down as he tries to make his way through the championship.
That gets pretty nerve-wracking, Chris and his team. I mean, one we have a bit of a delay there, and so he's got to kind of sweat it out, and then he's got to go against Farooq, which he's never gone against, and there it is. It's unanimous. Chris Forsberg gets the victory. Forsberg gets the victory and advances on to the top 16. Ryan, this is where it gets interesting. Vaughn Gittin Jr., Pat Mordant. That's our next battle. And I say it's interesting in a couple different reasons. Pat Mordant has defeated Vaughn Gittin Jr. before. He's kind of a kryptonite to him. As you can see, they're 2-2. Pat has taken out Vaughn twice, and Vaughn's taken out Pat twice. You look at the winning percentages, yeah, Vaughn has them, 67.1%, and Pat Mordant, 40.6%. Yesterday, seeing Pat Mordant, he shaved that beard, he looked dapper, he looked the part, looked good, feel good. Is he going to drive good? He's going against one of the best in business, Vaughn Gittin Jr. He says he can drive this car exactly how he wants. He's been on top of the box here in Irwindale, both in champion and won. He's done it all.
Well, Vaughn's road to the championship is a must-win here, and then he must beat Forsberg in the top 16. So every battle for Vaughn basically is going to be a must-win, but the 2 big ones are getting past Patrick Mordaunt here and then beating Chris Forsberg. Now, If he beats Chris Forsberg, we've got a crazy championship chase, because then it'll be what happens to Aasbo on the other side of the bracket. But for now, our eyes are on Patrick Mordant and Von Gittin Jr.
Von Gittin Jr. will lead as he qualified 13th compared to Pat Mordant's 20th. And this should be a fun one to watch. Von Gittin Jr., he looked good in practice. He was dragging the wall. Actually, we got a little teaser in practice of Von and Chris Forsberg going against each other, and they drove, they've driven all across the globe, let's be honest. But here at IRWINDALE, statistically, you have to think they have some of the most runs here at this track. Here comes Von Gittin Jr. initiating into the bank. Von Gittin Jr. dropping down a little bit on the bank. Pat Mordant could gain some proximity here. Horsepower number you did see a disparity in Patrick Mordant's corner. He's still hanging tough. Von Gittin Jr. now getting deep in that second rear clipping zone. And Pat Mordant gaining some ground. Not the big sensational entry there from Von, but just calm, cool, and collect.
Well, we've seen some great chase runs from Pat, and this wasn't one of his best chase runs, but you can see Von is down a little bit lower on the bank. He's on a mid-high line here. He's on a little bit of a quicker line. Pat right there is on the inside, but there's still that gap there that he needs to try to make up. Gittin right here does do a better job on the inside bank, staying pretty deep right there, rubbing that bumper right up against the wall, leaving it at right around the right time. And then Pat here trying to close the door towards the end. So Ryan, from your perspective, wrapping those two drivers together on that first run, what's your take?
Well, Gittin didn't really get to angle very quickly when he initiated, and he had low angle for the first portion of outside zone 1. And like you said, he was kind of low on off the wall as well. He did a really good job on outside zone 2. He was pretty deep. And unfortunately for Pat Mordant, he came off outside zone 1 a little bit early and seemed to come down a little bit earlier than Von, so he wasn't mimicking his line very well from outside zone 1 to inside clip 1. And you could see that that caused him to lose proximity, and he had to go through there with a little bit less angle to try to catch back up.
Here we go. Patrick Mordant will lead. Von Gittin Jr. Championship implications on the line. Pat Mordant pulling away from Von, but now reeling him in. Hook, line, and sinker, but no. Look at that. Pat Mordant quickly escapes the clutches of that Monster Energy Nitto Tire Ford Mustang, now closing in. Oh, and Von Gittin Jr. A hit, but he stays in it. That could have definitely been a bad move, but he stays on it, powers through the finish line. Ryan, let's dissect this again. Interesting. The pressure mounting.
Well, certainly not a runaway battle for Von Gittin Jr. here. You thought with that disparity and that gap in run number 1 that Von would be much closer to Pat in run number 2. You can see Pat is on that mid-low line, though. He's on a little bit of a quicker line. Von's trying to close the door here. He's not able to as Pat gets into the inner part of the bank. Pat does something similar to Von did. He gets right up on that rear wall, but you can see Von in the chase position tap a little bit there. So, Ryan, when we look at both of these runs, were the chase runs similar to each other between Pat and Von Gittin Jr.?
Yeah, if you look at the different errors that were made, it's going to come up to each of us individually to weigh the mistakes that were made. So Von ended up hitting that wall in outside zone 2. Didn't quite get straight, but sure did lose a lot of angle. And then, of course, Mordant, like I was saying earlier, came off of outside zone 1 a little bit early and kind of lost proximity through that infield section by inside clip 1. So it's going to be down to us individually to see how much weight you're going to put on each of those errors.
Yeah, Von going hard, knocking himself out of angle. How do each individual judge, how do they weigh that? So here it is. Who's going to be going against Chris Forsberg in the top 16? Andy says Von Gittin Jr. Ryan says one more time, and Brian says one more time. So that is a one more time battle. It is not decided. Von Gittin Jr. or Patrick Mordant, as they are going one more time. So, it is not decided. It's TBD, to be decided on who is going against Forsberg. Will it be Von Gittin Jr. or Pat Mordant? But now we'll advance on to JTP, Justin Pollock, one of the other ponies out there on track, the Roush Performance, Lucas Oil, Falcon Tires, Ford Mustang. JTP, Justin Pollock going against Alec Honadel, which I had some words with his spotter, Dave, that he was telling me that they're down a piston. They looked at the engine, they pulled it apart, and one of them was absolutely just fried. They smoked it. So, pulled it, dropped it, took out the injector, and boom, he is running on 7 cylinders. So, he says it actually ran pretty good. So, we'll see how he fares. Justin Pollock, an aggressive, fun driver to watch. He's definitely got good style. He kind of has that J style, that J essence, the Japanese essence, and but then obviously the American horsepower and power plant and vehicle. So, Justin Pollock will lead. Alec Honadel will give chase. Here we go. Honadel and Juku Racing Gittin Laboratory. Next in tires, S14, Pollock. Composed, high on the bank. Honadel works his way up, but falls out of drift. That's going to be a big disadvantage for Honadel. I don't know if he's able to come back from that. The judges are going to be erring on the side of JTP. That's a big correction there from Honadel. Pollock past that front clip. Tight like a toiga. Well done there, Justin Pollock, and that Roush performance. Menacing looking Ford Mustang. So let's take a look again here at this run. Ryan Lontaine, look at this run again. I mean, Honadel early on looks like he tries to get up there and then it ends up not paying off.
Yeah, he initiated a little bit low on the outside zone 1. You can see that he was down below that initial yellow line where the zone started. But you can see he slowly started to drop off in terms of proximity, even though he was on throttle, it looked like. So it must be a mechanical issue that caused him to straighten up and just completely stop drifting. And he never really got it back sideways throughout the rest of the course. So that would be a big 0 for him. And we're going to see, he looks like he might be calling a 5-minute competition timeout now to try to repair his car.
Looks like Honadel not pulling to the line. We are not informed exactly just yet if Honadel has used it, but with him not being there, he would have to institute using it because you do need to pull to the line immediately. So Justin Pollock with a big advantage here. All right, so it is not just a competition timeout. Honadel is saying, you know what, got to know when to fold him, like Kenny Rogers says, and looks like Justin Pollock, he comes up with the blackjack, and he is striking gold, whatever analogy you want to use. He's advancing on to the top 16 as Justin Pollock. All right, so JTP, Justin Pollock, advances on to the top 16. So Justin Pollock advances on to the top 16. Next battle is to be either Alex Hilbron, and looks like Alex is in the burnout box from Lima, Peru. The IMR Racing, the V8 supercharged BMW, will be going against Kyle Mohan, built to Apex, GT Radial, Mazda MX-5 from Long Beach, California, debuting his new company, Built to Apex. A lot of CNC and billet parts being manufactured in Southern California right here, as Kyle Mohan debuted his new MX-5 this year, and looks like he's having a fun year. You know, ups and downs. His best finish quite a few years ago, 4th place, has not podiumed in Formula. Warmed up there by Alex Hilbron. And Hilbron brings it up to the start line. As I said, from Lima, Peru, now living in Laguna Beach, California, Hilbron. These guys have never seen battle against each other. You can see 0 and 0. Fairly similar overall winning percentage. Alex Hilbron earning his Pro 2 license if he advances on. I mean, these guys are going for Rookie of the Year. Coming into this round, Hilbron and Farooq was just ahead Hilbron by 1 position. Farooq was 22nd coming into this round. Alex Hilbron 23rd. So just 1 position.
That would mean if he wins here, he has cemented his Rookie of the Year positioning.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And if he doesn't, we'll have to go back and look at the qualifying results in order to determine who is the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, they were definitely splitting hairs here. Kyle Mohan warming up his tires as Alex Hilbron awaits, and there is the menace, Kyle Mohan. And we are ready to send cars. Here comes Hilbron out front. IMR Racing. And Mohan giving chase. Let's see how those GT radials hang. Nida tires being lit up here on the bank. Hilbron. Mohan maintaining the same distance of proximity. Hilbron into that second rear clipping zone. Mohan wavering, working it, massaging it into that second rear clipping zone. Hilbron with a bit more composure and posture as far as his vehicle. Mohan brings it across. Let's take a look at this again here, Ryan.
Well, you can certainly see why Alex Hilbron is one of the rising stars in Formula Drift in only his rookie year. Starting off very strong here, you can see already establishing a gap, but he is on a mid-low line on the bank, which we said is a quicker line here. Now Mohan trying to play catch-up, comes up on the inside here. He's going to have a little bit of wavering, go deep, lose a little bit more distance to Alex, who's doing a much better job on the inside bank there, staying nice and tight on that inside clip, and then finishing up strong as he crosses the finish line. So Ryan, does Kyle Mohan have a little bit of work to do in his lead run in order to gain back maybe some of that advantage that Alex got on his lead?
Yeah, a little bit, but he has a great opportunity on outside zone 1 where Hilbron was quite a bit off that wall. So if Mohan can get up there and stick it to the wall all the way around, that'll give him a pretty decent advantage in that section especially, which is pretty difficult spot to stay up on the wall, as we've seen over the last few battles. Most drivers have been, quite a few feet off that wall, so it's going to be definitely an area of opportunity for him to get up there.
So now Mohan will lead Hilbron, giving chase. And Hilbron, a dominant performance last year in Pro 2, a newly built vehicle for coming to the Pro Championship, and I have to say he just gets better and better every round. I would say it's like Kristaps. Kristaps on his freshman year, some nervousness, but now I think Alex is gaining a lot of confidence here. And as he's Mohan throws it in, look at you see that front. Look at these guys. The front lefts are burning and turning. As Mohan comes past that front clip, Hilbron keeps his composure. Quite of a gap there as Hilbron works it in. Mohan diving very shallow. That's not going to pay off for Mohan. And it looks like Mohan struggling here, and they'll shut it down. So that will unfortunately mean Kyle Mohan and that big correction. Hilbron will advance on, and as you said, Ryan, implications for Rookie of the Year. That's quite a title.
Yeah,
there's been some big names that have been Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, congratulations to Alex. This will certainly be a big moment for him as he captures enough points to take home the Rookie of the Year against Kyle Mohan. You can see for Kyle, it starts to go downhill on the inside bank there. Looks like to be something of a mechanical, not very typical for Kyle there, but Alex stays behind and realizes that Kyle cannot finish the run, and after run number 1, it should be an easy victory here for Alex Hilbron.
Let's make it official. Slide him left for Mohan or right. All of them do for Alex Hilbron. Alex Hilbron, Nida Tires, the IMR Racing V8 Supercharged BMW. Alex Hilbron advances on to the top 16. We'll see him do battle against Justin Pollock, which should be fun. So, Ryan, it looks like I'm seeing Pat Mordant warming up his Falcon tires and his Drift Paddock Koenig wheels, 350Z. You can see his face on the roof if you haven't seen it already on social media. Pat Mordant, Tyler McCoy, they got their face up on the roof of their vehicle, so it's kind of cool because you look down from the different angles and shots either on CBS Sports, the live stream, or if you're here in the building. So, Ryan, this is the one more time. It was one driver went with, I think, Vaughn, and then the other 2 went one more time. And they're 2 for 2, or out of 4 battles, they're 50% beating each other. Yeah, certain drivers, have a very storied history against each other. And when we take a look at Vaughn Gittin Jr., you can see, definitely a veteran of the sport. Looking for his second championship since 2010. He had a stellar year that year with 6 podiums. He has an outside shot, but more of an outside shot if he can get through, or much more of a shot if he can get through Patrick Mordant, because then he'll face Chris Forsberg. And if he faces Chris Forsberg and he can beat Chris like he has in New Jersey, then he is really on his way to jumping from 3rd place to first place and taking home the championship. So last year we had Aasbo with a big gap against Gushi. Gushi tried to close it. Those guys were 1 and 2 at the end of the event. This time we have 3 drivers fighting for it. 2 of them are on the left-hand side of the bracket. 1's on the right-hand side of the bracket. And all the scenarios are going to depend where each driver gets knocked out. And it comes down to, just the math overall and how it equates in the end, because coming into this round, Chris Forsberg led the pack with 507 points. Frederick Aasbo with 470, Vaughn Gittin Jr. 446. So if you look at that, how's it going to land? Here we go. Vaughn Gittin Jr. out front. Patrick Mordant giving chase. Vaughn Gittin Jr. initiates high on the bank. Patrick Mordant, big angle there. Vaughn coming off it. How's he going to handle his front clip? Quick expedition from that front clip into the second rear clipping zone. Mordant working his way into it. Vaughn hanging it out there. The Nida tires ablaze. Getting in the cabin of Pat Mordant's 350Z.
Well, Vaughn seems to be, not getting as high on the bank as you would like him to, and maybe not as fluid as you would like him to, even though he's got this gap here. You can see he makes a little bit of a flub there. Pat does as well. He's got this distance between him and Pat. He does a nice job on that inside flip. Vaughn does a much better job like he did in run number 1 on the inside bank, just right there deep, super deep into that zone. Really good job there. But Ryan, does this look very similar to run number 1 between these two guys?
Well, it looks like Vaughn's really having a hard time getting angle on outside zone 1. It looks like the car has a lot of grip, and even though he's hard on the throttle, the car wants to straighten up on him. You can see it near the end of the outside zone 1 where the car started to actually straighten up and he had to try to get more angle in. He has no problem down on outside zone 2. He's able to get the car out to the wall with angle, no problem there, but in terms of creating a gap, as he did a little bit against Mordant, with the lack of angle like that, the car is going to accelerate quite a bit more aggressively than it would at angle. So Pat Mordant in the chase position is having to try to catch up to him.
Here we go, Pat Mordant, Vaughn Gittin Jr., Ryan, the stress of that, the pressure that Vaughn Gittin Jr. is feeling right now. Can he step up and defeat Pat Mordant, or is Pat Mordant going to be the spoiler in that Vaughn Gittin Jr. camp? Here we go in that second rear clipping zone. Pat Mordant right there, Vaughn Gittin Jr. throws it in, gaining that proximity. Good angle from Pat Mordant out front. Pat Mordant doing everything he needs to do, and I got to tell you, Vaughn Gittin Jr. cannot be shaken. And almost a straight in there by Pat Mordant. Great run. Good chase run.
Certainly both drivers pushing very hard in run number 2 here. You can see that gap established from the beginning, similar to the first battle between these guys, but this time Vaughn is able to close it down as we get into the inner part of the bank here. You can see transitioning from inside clip 1. Vaughn's going to come up on the inside here as Pat tries to go deep into this zone. Vaughn closes the door down to just a few feet here. You'd like to see him get door to door, and we'll see a lot more of that later. But Ryan, was this enough for Vaughn to be able to get the nod in run or battle number 2?
Well, I really liked what Mordant did in the lead position. I thought he had a really great zone 1. I thought that he got really deep, especially at the end of the zone. Looks really clean. Of course, Vaughn did a great job in the chase position, but because he had a much better lead run to follow, in my opinion, because of the bigger angle and a little bit more proximity to that wall as he was coming around the outside of outside zone 1.
All right, let's go to the judges. Patrick Mordant, Vaughn Gittin Jr., Ryan, what do we got here? Andy says one more time. What do Ryan, look at this, one more time, 2-1. It's another one more time. So, Andy, Ryan, you guys said one more time. Brian aired on the side of Vaughn Gittin Jr.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I thought Vaughn had a more dominant chase run there. But
well,
Pat had a great lead run.
Absolutely, and that's where it came down for me, is that I felt Pat had a better lead run, Vaughn had a better chase run. But the fact that Pat had such a better, I guess that better lead run gave Vaughn the opportunity to have a good chase, whereas Vaughn was trying to get away, not maybe trying to get away, he just had a hard time maintaining angle throughout outside zone 1. A lack of angle will give you a lot more speed in the car. You know, if you have a car in a straight line, it's going to go a lot faster than if you're sideways accelerating. So that's something that we talked about in the drivers meeting as well, is you need to fulfill all of the lead driver's responsibilities when you're in the lead, and one of the lead driver's responsibilities is achieving as close to a 100-point qualifying run as possible, which includes driving through all the zones with angle.
Well executed, well described there from our judge Ryan Lantain. I think, you know, adding Ryan Lantain, speaking on his behalf, or speaking on his own behalf, but also, you know, kind of conversing with the other judges and elaborating on what's going down. Right now, Ryan Turk on track in that O'Reilly Auto Parts Gum Out Hankook Tires Nameless Performance SR by Toyota 86. This is a buy run. It was not to go against anybody. He qualified number 2. So that means, again, with only 29 drivers qualifying, he gets a bye into the top 16. Sage?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment about some of the things that we've been seeing so far. It's really interesting to note that when you look at qualifying yesterday, no driver breaking a 90. Dye, Ryan Turk, and Forrest Wing, not typically the guys you see up in the top qualification, but certainly are capable of doing that. Wang has had a number of number 1 qualifications in the past. But the interesting thing is I have to wonder, you know, with Aasbo qualifying down in number 11, Gittin in number 13, is there vehicle setup? Is there something going on that these guys are looking at strategy-wise? Because usually you see those guys in the top 5, and we're seeing 2 more times from Gittin in the top 32. Certainly going to put a little bit of fatigue in the vehicle. So we'll see what happens as things get more interesting here in the top 32, and we're not even into the main competition yet.
No, I mean this is just warming things up, and this being the 13th year of the Formula Drift Championship, we've seen a lot of battles here. We've seen a lot of zaniness and things that you don't think will happen has happened, like an unbelievable turn of event. I mean, what stands out for me was when Dai Yoshihara was going to win the championship. Justin Pollock, he had an opportunity to get it. Dai crashes, and it was all his. Pollock crashes, and Dai gets it back. That was an unbelievable finish here at the House of Drift under the lights. So we are, the sun is still up. When it sets, the track's going to change. The drivers are going to turn up. The fans are just going to be on their feet, both here in the building as well as thank you for joining us online. And here we go, our next battle. Ken Gushi, and in practice earlier we saw Gush, the Gretty Racing Nexon Tires, SR by Toyota 86, went hard on the wall. Mad Mike with dead. He had one qualifying run. He got a 0 in his first run, but right now he's applying the pressure in what's called the Rad Bull, the twin-turbo 4-rotor MX-5. 2 very loud and signature vehicles. Mad Mike Godet dropping into that second rear clipping zone. Ken Gushi maybe a little timid after going hard in the wall in practice, but right now Mad Mike tucking into that Nexon Tire smoke signal. A fun run there from both these guys. Make some noise, if you will. Ken Gushi and Mad Mike Wodet.
Good run by both guys, starting off very exciting at the bare minimum here. You can see Gushi's vehicle not 100% from going into the wall in practice. Starting off on a mid-high line on the bank. Pretty decent job there as Mike tries to close the door, coming down a little bit of a lower line. And then right there you can see Mike misses that inside clip as Gushi was pretty close to it. Now as we get in the lower part of the bank here, you can see Mike on the inside, Gushi deep into that zone. Big smoke line here as Gushi wraps into that second marker on that inside clip. So Ryan, from you, Ken Gushi, Mad Mike, after run number 1.
I felt like Ken Gushi did pretty well in outside zone 1. He wasn't super high initially, but worked it up there. You could tell he was a little tentative coming into inside clip 1 and then rotating the car out to outside zone 2. It's not the runs that we are used to seeing from him. In practice, we saw him going deeper earlier into outside zone 2, but you could tell there that he had to lift a little bit coming by inside clip 1. That is not something we like to see from the lead drivers. It's something that we told them we don't want to see. We're really looking for the slowdown area to be after that inside clip. So once they get the car rotated back for outside zone 2. So not ideal from Gushi from that section, but overall not horrible. And Mad Mike took advantage of it and got real close to him in outside zone 2.
Here we go, Mad Mike Wodet in the Rad Bull, the Red Bull, twin turbo, 4-rotor MX-5 on Nida tires. Ken Gushi, Nexon Tire shrouded, Gretty Racing, Boost Brigade, SR by Toyota 86. Wodet out of the chicane. Let's see how he handles this big bank here. Throws it in, Gushi right there. Some wavering from both of the drivers. Mike works it up high. Past that front clip, mimicking each other. Whoa, Gushi! Woo! Making his presence felt right there on the door of Mad Mike. A good transition for both the guys. Gushi with the dynamic chase run there, past that front clip, and powering through the finish line. Woo! Liked what Gushi did. Like I said, maybe timid on that first run, definitely not on the second.
Certainly attacking on the inside was Ken Gushi coming down off the bank. Let's take a look at it again. See, Gushi starts low here. Mad Mike a little bit higher, then Gushi adjusts, try to get on a little bit of a higher line so he's not running up against Mad Mike on a bad line. And then right here you can see he sets up on the inside, almost goes a little bit too low, but he's able to maintain proximity there. Then backs off for a little bit as Mad Mike just a little bit long on that last inside clip and narrowly hitting that K-rail. So Ryan, from you, parse this second run here.
So we know that Ken Gushi, his spotter had to tell him, you have a slight disadvantage based on what you did in the lead position coming through inside clip 1 to outside zone 2. So he's probably telling him you need to push really hard in this run. You need to have good proximity, you need to be aggressive, and you need to really show the judges that you are the better of the 2 drivers out there right now. And he did a great job coming into outside zone 2. That was phenomenal car control. It looked really exciting and dangerous, but he pulled it off and made it work. So good for him for getting that confidence back.
No, I think his spotter's like, take it easy. You're just mellow. Just Sunday cruise. All right, so you can see looks like some smoke. Don't know if the car's still exhausting some tire smoke or if things running hot. Here we go. Going to the judges. Mad Mike Odette, Ken Gushi, Andy says Gushi, Ryan and Brian saying, one more time. They're going at it again. But what stop was that this year? We saw just an insane amount of, was it Texas? Just most recently Texas. Lantain, where do we see the insane amount of one more times? Was it Seattle or Texas? Or was it Canada? Man, one of the rounds, it was just an insane amount of one more times. But all right, we're seeing quite a few one more times. So we move on to so here we go, moving on to our one more time again. This is the third battle between these gentlemen. So 2 one more times after their original battle, and this is their third battle. Can Von Gittin Jr. keep it together to advance on? Pat Mordant, can he push hard? Again, it's been done. They're both 2-2 going against each other. 2 for 4, I should say, so 50% winning average going against each other. The pressure mounting. Championship implications for Von Gittin Jr. Pat Mordant just doing what he does best. Here we go. Von Gittin Jr. out front. Monster Energy, Nida Tire, Mustang RTR initiating. And Von Gittin Jr. hit to the wall. Von goes into the wall as Pat Mordant straightens out. Von hitting the wall. Ryan, huge hit heard around the world.
Well, Von Gittin Jr.'s championship season hangs right here in front of us as we take a look at this one more time. You can see Von initiates a little bit higher on the bank now. The tail's reaching up, taps the wall, and you can see the understeer right there. Pat off the course, trying to avoid it, but Von Gittin Jr. certainly tapping the wall and having to stop.
Watch his front wheels. Lantain, how about you?
Well, what happens, these cars are developing so much grip now. They need to have the grip to overpower the tires. You got Von getting out of his car. And unfortunately, we're telling these guys to push harder and harder up towards the wall, big angle, and his spotter may have heard us saying that. You need to throw more angle in. The judges want more angle, and he's trying to do that, and it ended up understeering a little bit and getting up into the wall, unfortunately, for him. So now we're going to have a little bit of a break, I think.
So, again, another round of applause for Von Gittin Jr., 2010 Formula Drift champion, Monster Energy, Nida Tire, Mustang RTR. Frustration surmounting, going 2 one more times, but I mean, you know, at this point, he's at a deficit. There is another half of this battle. He could use a competition timeout, come back at it, but he does have this deficit here going now. Pat Mordant having an advantage. Would it be enough? Is he knocked out? We'll find out when he returns, but man, hats off to him. He was going for it, running for it. Now, if Pat moves on, Chris Forsberg has a better chance to advance on. Could he see Aasbo in the finals? Where's Chris going to land? Well, we do know right now, Von Gittin Jr., he'll get towed off. When we come back, more top 32 action here at the O'Reilly Auto Parts title fight, sponsored by Gumout. This is the final round, 8 of 8 of the Formula Drift Championship, presented by Blackview Dash Cameras when we return here to the House of Drift.
Well, as we clear Von Gittin Jr. off of the course and find out whether or not he's going to use his competition timeout, let's go down to Lorette Nickel, who's with Forrest Wang, to talk about the challenges that he's had with his vehicle yesterday, moving into this weekend.
Standing here with Forrest Wang, he is actually in his demo car for IRWINDALE. Forrest, what's going on?
Well, we had an engine failure in the S15 on Thursday practice, and luckily it happened Thursday and not Friday, because if it happens on your paid practice on Thursday, then you're allowed to change vehicles before Friday. If it happened on Friday, then we would have been stuck trying to prepare the 15 and try to replace the engine in a very short amount of time, which would have been really hard for us because we don't have one on hand. So we would have had to source one and then install it in a very short amount of time and probably retune it as well. So having this car here, it's way down on power, but I do think it was a better choice than trying to fix the S15 and not have an engine or a way to get it tuned up. So having this car, it's a big relief for us, and I mean, we managed to qualify third, so I'm really happy with the outcome of using this car.
Forrest, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lorette. Thank you, Forrest, as Von Gittin Jr. gets towed off of the track. As so we are finding out what's going on. Well, as you see, Vaughn and his trusty steed going hard into the wall. That will be a swan song. So that is his swan song. Ryan, Drift fans, Vaughn Gittin Jr. is retiring. His car unable to compete. So that means Pat Mordant advances on. Ryan, that is a big hit on this big bank heard round the world. Mathematically, he's out of being a champion. Where he ends as far as top 3 overall in the 2016 is still TBD to be decided. Also, Frederick Aasbo, he is the last battle of the top 32. Forsberg, he waits in the wings to find out what's going on, but congratulations, Pat Mordant advances on to the top 16 in that Falcon Tires Drift Paddock Koenig Wheels 350Z. Anything to add there, Ryan, as far as Vaughn going out? I mean, that's huge.
I mean, no, you basically said it all. It's pretty much right at this point. It's down to Forsberg and Frederick Aasbo, but Aasbo still needs to get into the top 16. We could potentially crown a champion if Aasbo does not make it out of the top 32, but that is still 3 more battles to go.
Man, I mean, if you're Chris Forsberg and his team, you're come on, Dean. You know, you're pulling for Dean at this instance in that Dodge Viper, as Aasbo will go against Dean Carnage Kerney, and Aasbo, I feel like he's poised, but he's made those kind of little corrections throughout the year. We're gonna have to wait. The final battle, top 32. So Pat Mordant waits on the start line. This will be, he does advance on. Here we go. So Pat Mordant.
It is a solo run, correct?
All right, so Pat Mordant, this is his bye run, just showing that his car is able and ready to rock, as Pat Mordant will be advancing on into the top 16. Drift Paddock Koenig Falcon Tires 350Z. Getting a little more shakedown run here. Safecraft Racing equipment on the vehicle as well. So there's Pat Mordant's run as his teammate, or his, I should say, yeah, his teammate, the vehicle operated out of Tyler McCoy's pit. Tyler McCoy and his Mobile One Falcon Tires Chevrolet Camaro GoPro on the hood. So here we go as Tyler McCoy warming up his tires. A lot of different driving disciplines for Tyler McCoy. Team McHugh, Lightning Cord, or the Rock, whatever you want to call him, as McCoy will be going up against Cameron Moore. So we are officially more than halfway through our top 32 as McCoy warms it up. Tyler McCoy bringing it over to the start line. These guys have not, so a lot of first-time battles between a lot of these drivers. There's Cameron Moore, bring it to the line. Here's McCoy. McCoy will lead. Cameron Moore will give chase. McCoy qualifying 7th yesterday. Cameron Moore qualifying 26th. Cameron Moore, some big battles, and the way McCoy's been driving, he seems to be a magnet for the other vehicles this season. I mean, he's seen some, but I mean, he's been driving hard. A very exceptional driver. Cameron Moore falling down to the bank, as does Tyler McCoy in that lead position. Initiates high, but drops down. See Tyler's smiling face there on the roof. Hear him lifting, then standing back on the throttle as that mushroom cloud is just exiting out of the back of his Chevrolet Camaro. And bring it through the finish line. Man, you can't even see Cameron Moore tucked into the pocket there.
Well, Tyler has definitely had a very storied year. Most definitely once at 5th in points in the championship, and then definitely a magnet for a lot of guys hitting him. But you can see here as he starts off, he's very, very low on the bank. It's a much quicker line. And if you remember that A-cell map, it really shows true right there. You can see the guys off throttle and get back on. Big smoke starting to come back up. It's McCoy and Cameron wrap around this last clip, but McCoy seems like he's having a little bit of trouble in the lead, Ryan. And then how did Cameron do in the chase?
Cameron initiated really low on the bank, and he was down below those yellow lines. Now, we painted those yellow lines to give us, the fans, the spotters, the drivers, everybody, a good view of where the cars are actually on the track. So it's not so difficult to tell the distance from the wall. And you can see that Cameron was actually down below that yellow line. The first one, Tyler was pretty close to the yellow line. I don't think he dipped down below it, but he was pretty close to it near the end of that outside zone. And then wasn't very precise near the end of the course either. He kind of missed a couple of key parts of the track.
Cameron Moore will now lead. Tyler McCoy will give chase. How's Cameron Moore going to throw down here out front? Cameron turning it up into the big bank here at the House of Drift. Cameron on the bank, you see some wavering. Tyler McCoy diving into the pocket, transitioning into that second rear clipping zone. Cameron getting deep. Oh, can he hang it out there and keep it all the way? Yes, he does. McCoy now closing the door, bringing it in. Oh, Cameron Moore tapping the wall. He counters, but it was after the finish line.
Well, second run of the battle here in the top 32. You see Cameron Moore initiates. Tyler McCoy a bit lower, trying to close the door here. Some wavering from Moore out front. And then Ryan picking up right here on the inside here. You see Moore go a little bit long on that inside clip. And McCoy waiting for an opportunity to attack here, just not able to get super close to Cameron.
Yeah, neither one of these runs was the clean run that we're looking for in the lead position, nor was it the clean run in the chase position either. So not really, not exemplary runs. They both made quite a few mistakes, and I don't think either one really showed any kind of dominance. I hate to say that driver, we want to choose one more time, but when you get into a situation like this where many mistakes are made from both drivers, it's really hard to find who made the least amount of mistakes.
All right, so as the drivers wait, Cameron Moore and Tyler McCoy. You can see the smoke still just lingering here in the House of Drift. Andy, Ryan, and Brian slide them left for Moore and right for McCoy. And there it is. Another one more time. And I definitely agree with that call. There were some mistakes on either side. Lantaine, I mean, it was unanimous there from all you guys.
Yeah, I'm choosing one more time too often here. Not that I shouldn't be choosing it, but I feel like I'm having to choose it too much. It's the mistakes that are being made in top 32 right now. They shouldn't be being made by these drivers. They should be. They need to tighten things up a little bit, I think. We've had a couple of great runs, but overall we've just had some sloppy driving here and there.
So, I mean, let's be honest. So you're saying it's sloppy driving, not exceptional driving? I mean, do you think it's the course design? Because we've seen this course before, but the way it's massaged out, or do you think the progression? Because, again, you've massaged that one curve there towards the end, but also that front clip as well.
Well, I think that we're getting slightly jaded as fans of drifting as well. We're seeing some high-quality drifting all the time, and now any little mistake that we see, we have to point it out.
Here we go. Ken Gushi, that's one more time, another one. Ken Gushi out front. Mad Mike Woodette high on the bank. You need to utilize that lead car as a moving clipping point. Mad Mike goes higher on that bank. Big angle from Gushi. How's that going to pay off? Oh, my goodness. And Gushi, let's take a look at this again. You see Gushi throw big angle at it as he goes. Ryan.
Yeah, you could see that building up, Jared. Let's take a look at this again. Gushi, again, on that kind of a mid-low line, then works his way up. You can see Mike on the inside here. Now watch Gushi going to put a ton of angle to the car, really slow it down on the transition back around. He whips it around. Mike hits him, they kiss, and then Mike goes up the railing. Very sensational contact here as we take a look at it one more time. And Ryan, from driver's perspective, what do you see that happened here with Ken Gushi? Just turned it up too much?
Yeah, when you over-rotate the car to one direction like that and then you snap it back the other way, it tends to snap violently, and it's really hard to catch unless you either try to straighten up a little bit to try to alleviate that potential spin that's going to occur, or in this case, you end up doing a nice full spin like that. And then Mad Mike in the chase position really had nowhere to go. He tried to anticipate the way that he was going to rotate the car, but as you can see, the car just completely snapped on Ken. And Ken has been, by their own admission, the team's admission, been having steering problems all weekend. So maybe that came into effect here as well.
Well, Ryan, as you can see, Ken Gushi, Mad Mike Woodette will get a cleanup here on aisle 2. Make some noise for Mad Mike Woodette and Ken Gushi, if you will. These guys going hard. This is the one more time battle. Obviously, Ken Gushi rotating. That'll be a deficit for him. We'll see. He's had, man, some terrible luck. He had some steering issues. He popped an engine yesterday. And Mad Mike Wadette, he got a 0 on his first qualifying run. There you go. Some hugs, kind of just some sincere, genuine sportsmanship there. So we'll clean up here on aisle 2. Thanks for joining us. We're just warming things up here collectively for the O'Reilly Auto Parts title fight, sponsored by Gum Out. When we return to more top 32 action, only a few more battles left, so hang with us because it's going to be a barn burner here at the House of Drift. So there you can see we're still taking up the vehicles of Ken Gushi and Mad Mike Wadette. And we keep talking about the championship and what's at stake here. You know, we will have a victor of this independent round that is the O'Reilly Auto Parts title fight, sponsored by Gum Out, and the overall championship of the Formula Drift Championship presented by Blackview Dash Cameras up for grabs. Notably, Chris Forsberg, he comes in, he's leading, he's in the top 16. Second in points, Frederick Aasbo, not too far behind, but he is still yet to go. Who's he going to go against? Dean Carnage Kerney, our own Lorette Nickel, the girl on the ground who you just had some words with Forrest Wing. She had some words with Dean Carnage Kerney.
Dean had a blown head gasket and then a blown motor. His team was working so hard all night to put everything back together. Dean, how's it going?
Yeah, we're definitely having a challenging weekend so far. We blew a head gasket on Thursday in practice. Got all back together for Friday, and the last run of practice before qualifying on Friday we blew a motor, so we were able to do a 70-point run and put it in the show. The boys stayed at the track until 7 a.m. this morning, pour out to blow a motor, built a new one out of all the parts we have, got it back in, caught me, I brought the dyno, tuned it, came back here about 20 minutes before the session started, and yeah, we're trying to jam out. And
nothing like a little stress, right?
Oh yeah, look, that's just the joys of drifting and racing in general. It's always stressful, but it's part of the pie, you know. So,
Dean, best of luck.
Thank you very much.
So you can hear some applause there for Mad Mike Wadette and the Rad Bull getting towed off there on the flatbed. And Ken Gushi, looks like both of them are going to try to attempt to fix their cars. Ken Gushi would have the deficit here, as he was the cause of the accident, as Lantain was explaining there. So, and we will see what goes on, what goes down next. As next up we would be seeing we still have to see Tyler McCoy and Cameron Moore go against each other. After that, we'll see Charles Ng, Castro. Wang does have that bye run, as he talked about that borrowed car. Odie Bakshi's Pat Gooden, Matt Field, Kenny Moen, and then Frederick Aasbo, Dean Carnage Kerney. Ryan, we talk about those points. Frederick Aasbo, he will be the final battle. Forsberg is leading the pack coming to this round.
Yeah, and it looks like that he's still in good position here. It's really obviously going to come down to what does Frederick Aasbo do now that Von Gittin Jr. is out of the way. Odie Bakshi's has an opportunity here because he's only 26 points out to take that third place position, depending on what happens with him. And certainly from Odie's perspective, he's been carrying a lot of momentum the past few rounds. He had that win in Seattle, and he's certainly one to watch.
Yeah, you bring up Odie Bakshi's. I mean, 4th last year overall, and right now, like you said, 26 points behind Von Gittin Jr. He's got Pat Gooden, who's going against, and that would just be, just the progression of his driving and just making a name for himself on track. So we are getting Ken Gushi here off the course. You can see our fans streaming in here. A lot of the fans just choosing to come here during the halftime break. Thank you for your patience. As you can see, we are filling up this Irwindale Speedway. The most people this track has ever seen has been a Formula Drift event. So I don't think it's going to be any different as we bring in some more bleachers as opposed to just the standard stands there. We're bringing some more suites, more bleachers throughout the venue, and pack every particular portion of this track. So we will take a short break here once again. And please join us join the conversation. Hashtag FDIRW at Formula D on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. Go to formuladee.com for any and all information. And I believe we're quickly announcing Long Beach, round 1, next year, 2017, right?
We'll be announcing the schedule probably prior to SEMA to the drivers, and publicly not much longer after that.
Okay, so we'll get back. Go to formuladee.com right now, but we're getting Ken Gushi off the course, getting cleaned up, and we'll continue with the top 32 action here at the House of Drift Irwindale Speedway. Well, look at that. Mad Mike getting underneath his vehicle, checking out what has gone wrong, or what do they need to fix, Ryan, as you know, when it comes down to this, Ken Gushi spun. He had contact. He has a certain allotted amount of time that he can work on his car, but you still want to thrash on it. So you want to make sure the car is running and up to snuff there, Ryan.
Well, you know, it's one of those situations where Mad Mike is not at fault, so he's certainly in an okay position here, but he does want to make sure that his car is operable because he does need to prove that he can get back to the line if he does need to call more time. But we actually are hearing officially that Ken Gushi has decided to call it a day and is bowing out of competition. So we'll confirm exactly what the reason was, or the damage to the vehicle specifically, but we are hearing over the radio comms now that Ken Gushi is out of competition.
I'm loving battling this sun.
All right, so you can see Mad Mike working on his car, shining it up, making it look good at this point. I mean, it doesn't seem that he's working on anything super technical right now, but Ryan, maybe you want to elaborate on what's at stake here for Mad Mike.
Well, Mad Mike, because he wasn't at fault, he gets basically 10 minutes from the time that he's able to get hands on the vehicle to fix the vehicle. At that point, if he has a competition timeout, he can call that. If he doesn't have one, then the 10 minutes would run out. And the reason why we have that in place is because to give fairness to each of the drivers in specific areas of the competition bracket, depending on when you have an accident. If we didn't have this rule in place, you could literally be fixing your vehicle for the entire top 32. Right. So we give everybody the 10 minutes if they're not at fault. If they can't fix it in the 10 minutes, then they get their additional 5. If they can't fix it in that 5, they will win the matchup, but they cannot move into competition. So that's why Mad Mike's team is making sure that their vehicle is competition ready as soon as they get the call to get back to the next part of competition.
All right, so again, Ken Gushi's out. Mad Mike has his 10-minute. If 10-minute retires, he can use the competition timeout, which is an additional 5 minutes. So you can see our safety and our track crew still cleaning up. So as we are seeing, as you can see, we are still cleaning up a lot of fluids there coming out of the vehicle. All right, so Ryan, a crazy turn of events here as far as everything unfolding. We've seen multiple one more times. Gittin Jr. taking himself out, and the championship's still at stake. But let's talk about some of these battles we're going to be seeing in top 16.
Yeah, Daijiro Yoshihara, probably the easiest of the day for him.
Right, number one qualifier and bye run.
Goes out first. He's going to be facing Jeff Stoneback, and then we've got Kristaps Blues going up against Juha Rentinen, and then
Chris Forsberg against Pat Mordant. That has the championship, in tow. And then Justin Pollock versus Alex Hilbron. And those guys have pretty similar styles, pretty exciting drivers there. Then we got Ryan Turk. Ryan Turk will go against the winner of Mad Mike Wadette and Ken Gushi. But the question is, Mad Mike Wadette, is he going to be able to fix his car in order to leave the line? Is he able to run to go against Ryan Turk? Because we are hearing that Ken Gushi is out. He has retired. His car is unable to be fixed. But the big thing is Mad Mike able to run. Because if he doesn't fix it in that allotted 10, plus the 5 minutes, which is the competition timeout, that would mean he would be unable to compete. Ryan Turk would advance on to the Great 8. Then as far as the rest of the top 16, it's still to be decided. We still have the one more time of McCoy versus Cameron Moore, Charles Ng versus Jonathan Castro. Forrest Wang does have that bye run. He will advance in the top 16. And then we talked about Odi Bakshi's and Pat Gooden. That should be a fun one. Matt Field, Kenny Moen. And then finally, Ryan, the final battle, top 32. Frederick Aasbo and Dean Carnage Kerney. Frederick Aasbo, again, currently second in points, going against Dean Carnage Kerney, and he worked on his car last night and got a new engine in it. So, this IRWINDALE track, it's iconic, it's crazy, and it's all ours, the House of Drift.
Certainly been a crazy top 32, and if we run long here because of these one more times in the wrecks here, we'll certainly make some adjustments to the schedule so we can get everybody ample time in the paddock for autographs up in front with drivers and many other activities that are going on. So right now it's 5:40. We've got 4 battles left to go. in going to this one right now, the one-more-time battle between Tyler McCoy and Cameron Moore.
Yeah, another one-more-time battle here. So Tyler McCoy will be leading. He qualified 7th yesterday. Cameron Moore qualifying 26th. And now Cameron Moore pulling to the start line. Warm up his Falcon tires. Name his performance SC. Here we go. McCoy out front. The 2JZ under the hood of the SC of Cameron Moore. Cameron Moore coming to us from Battleground, Washington. He's about to do battle with the Rock, Tyler McCoy. There goes McCoy into that first rear clipping zone. Initiates strong. Man, not even seeing the back half of that car. Covered in smoke. As McCoy drops into that front clip. Cameron Moore, pretty good job there. Keeps has some distance and then loses some loses some angle. Gains some proximity. Nosing in on the doors, Cameron Moore.
Well, it's real interesting, Jared. We haven't seen, I don't think, one driver really scrape the bumper on the big wall yet this event. And you have to wonder what drivers are doing to their setup. Even Tyler McCoy here, kind of a mid-high line. And you can see as he comes off the bank, he's going to wrap into this first inside clip. Some separation here between him and Cameron. Cameron is going to shallow up a little bit. He's going to be able to close the door on Tyler McCoy. But Ryan, did he sacrifice a bit too much right there and make contact with Tyler McCoy?
Yeah, he was down below the lines that we have painted on the track right there, which it's really obvious that you're way off the wall there. Obviously, looking at where Tyler was, he was not near the wall either, but Cameron was definitely further down there. He was a little bit further down on outside zone 1 as well, but it got him the proximity and got him into Tyler's door a little bit. So we're going to have to see how Tyler does in the chase position now, and hopefully Cameron can put together a good lead run for his sake.
He did on that first battle between them. Can Cameron Moore step up? As Tyler McCoy, you see him lunging forward. Cameron Moore standing on the throttle. Tyler McCoy right there, not the highest on the bank from either driver. Tyler McCoy lunges forward. Is that going to pay off? Whoa, look at that. No risk it, no biscuit. Cameron Moore taps the wall. You see him wavering, but he gets back into it, sticks it to the wall. Past that final front clip. Oh, buddy. Ryan, let's take a look at this again.
Well, as both drivers leave the line, you could argue that Tyler McCoy had an advantage on run number 1 with Cameron having that mistake on the inside bank. Now let's take a look at run number 2 here. Cameron's kind of the same thing as Tyler, but a little bit lower on the big bank. Tyler a little bit closer to Cameron. Now Tyler's going to surge forward. He's almost going to make contact now. Usually drivers might go into the wall there, but instead of going to the wall, he's going to really come shallow here. So we'll have to see how much of a mistake that plays in the overall scheme of things as we go to the end of the battle here and now to the judges.
Well, the one thing that we talked about in the drivers' meeting was not slowing down and throwing big angle inside clip 1, and unfortunately, Cameron Moore did that in this case, where Tyler was advancing into him at the same time, so it really made for a close call right there.
So going to the judges, Cameron Moore, slide him left for Moore, slide him right for Tyler McCoy. Unanimously gets the win. Tyler McCoy advances on. Ryan, we're hearing word that we talked about the allotted 10 minutes. He wasn't at fault against Ken Gushi. Then he added an additional 5 minutes in the competition timeout. So he had a total 15 minutes in order to fix his car. But now he's unable to run.
Yeah, it's a real shame. Mad Mike will not be making it to the top 16. He wasn't able to fix his car.
Well, no, he advanced to the 16.
I'm sorry. He won't be making it into the top 16 ceremonies.
Gotcha.
Because he will get top 16 points, but he will not be able to compete in the top 16, unfortunately, because he did not make it in the 10 minutes plus the 5 for the competition timeout. So another tough break for Mad Mike Wadette. Not his fault this time, but he will get the top 16 points. But for Ryan Turk, it's basically going to be 2 bye runs back to back.
Oh, my God. Ryan, and it happens for Turk in this way. If you can remember Orlando last year where he eventually podiumed and won, and it was just kind of, I don't want to say handed to him,
but that's how it happened.
But Turk's luck this year has been the opposite of that.
Yeah, it really has. So he kind of gets a gift. Yeah, all right, let's talk about Charles Ng and Jonathan Castro. Ng leaves the start line, the Sogan Motorsports Achilles Radial G37. Jonathan Castro next in tires. Charles Ng nice on the bank. Here comes Castro. In tow. Charles Ng very shallow, fluid, but shallow, and now he massages it in. Kind of an interesting run here from both the drivers. I mean, Charles Ng lighting it up, brings it across the finish line. I want to hear both your Sage and Lantaine. It was kind of a wacky run.
Well, you can see Ng getting off the line here with Castro right behind him, staying with him about car length and a half here. You can see, again, not really utilizing the entire bank. Really like to see the drivers get up as high as possible. You can see Ng shallows up a little bit on inside clip one. Castro trying to find an opportunity to attack here, but kind of a little bit of a wishy-washy approach on the inside bank. And so, for Ryan, from your perspective here, equal after run number one, or did one driver have more mistakes than the other?
Well, it's hard to see on the replay, but watching it live, it looked like Charles Ng was driving at a very slow rate of speed. His pace seemed really slow live, but when you watch it on a replay, it seems to lose a little bit of its effect, I guess you could say. But they both made little mistakes here and there, but nothing really too apparent from either one.
All right, don't leave it in the judges' hands. Let's not see it one more time, guys. Own it. Here we go. Let's push hard. Let's see who's going to advance on, who is going to earn their pass into the top 16. Is it going to be Castro from Dominican Republic in that Metal Dom GT86 on Nexen tires? Or is it going to be Charles Ng, Sogan Motorsports, Team Orange, Achilles Radial G37? There goes Castro into the bank. Throws it in. A very middle of the line, now works it up higher. Charles Ng right there in that smoke signal. Into that second outer zone goes Castro. Castro deeper on that second zone than Ng was. Now Ng right there, nosing in literally. And across the finish line. Ryans, anything stand out to you on those runs?
Well, you can see the smoke looming there, and Jonathan Castro initiates on the bank again, very, very low on the bank here. You can see the distance up to the wall. Ng keeping him in sight as he tries to close the door here on the inside. Ng surging forward here, a little bit of a deeper line, but really just wanting to try to stay on the door of Jonathan Castro, and then right there gets real close. So good job on proximity on the latter part of the course by Ng, I would say, Ryan.
I really like the way Charles kind of set up his chase run. He was good in proximity all the way throughout the course and drove really well. Mimic was pretty good as well.
And let's go to the judges. John Castro, Charles Ng, and there it is. Charles Ng unanimously gets the victory, and Ng advances on to the top 16. Okay, so as we heard the news from Mad Mike Wadette being out, Laurent Nickel and the team was down there. So some frustration there from Mad Mike Wadette, and it just I think a culmination of the team working, thrashing, kitted, committed, wants to do battle, but unfortunately that allotment of time not enough for Mad Mike to get his car back up and running order.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate, and there is a reason for it, though. I mean, would you let guys fix their car for an hour, and then sometimes if you allow them to go till the end of top 32, if that same thing were to happen in the last battle of the top 32, you haven't given that guy the fairness as well. So it's got to be uniform across the board, and sometimes it's gonna hurt for somebody.
Right. So yeah, Aasbo and Dean go through that. We can't wait 30 minutes. So yeah, that's just like you said, uniformity. Well, right now Forrest Wang is the lone driver on the track. That's because he qualified third yesterday, so that means he gets a bye run, the golden ticket, into the top 16. Big angle, big wangle as Forrest Wang getting us laboratory Hankook tires. S14, his S15, as you saw the interview, or maybe you didn't, with the Rhett Nickel, talking about how spun a rod, and unfortunately his S15 that he's been campaigning all year, unable to make the finals, but he does make in the top 16 with his backup car that is the S14. Ryan, 3 more battles left in the top 16. And I can hear the V8 Hyundai Genesis of Odi Bakshi's in the Art Performance
Falcon Tire Hyundai Genesis Coupe. There it is, warming it up from Wrightwood, California. Odie Bakshi's right now, he's got to start thinking top 3. He was 4th overall last year, 32 years old, originally from Lithuania. Him and his wife and daughter live in Wrightwood, California. Finished 2nd overall in the 2015 FD World Championship as he campaigned and traveled to Japan. So, you know, he's really made a name for himself. If you get to know him, if you don't know him and you talk to him, he's kind of a shy, I don't want to say shy, but he's kind of a quiet, easy, monotone guy. But then once you get to know him, he's definitely got a lot of personality. So, Odie Bakshi's Pat Gooden, though they're going to be going against each other. As you can see the stats there, Odie has beat Gooden before in the past. Pretty fairly comparable horsepower, 61% winning average on Odie's side. That's a pretty high winning percentage. Pat Gooden, 26.8. We'll see how they fare. About to find out. Odie Bakshi's qualifying 14th yesterday. Pat Gooden qualifying 19th. Should be a fairly equally matched pair. Here we go. Odie Bakshi's out front. Pat Gooden giving chase. Odie initiates. Pat Gooden, a late initiation, kind of just rolled into it there. And now he's right there on the door of this Hyundai of Odie Bakshi's. Second rear clipping zone. Odie goes at it immediately. Again, a little bit late from Gooden. Like the angle, standing on throttle. Nice job there by Gooden and across the finish line.
Well, Odie Bakshi's in a very good position here to make his way up into the championship points chase with Gittin Jr. going out in the top 32. Starting off here against Pat Gooden. Odie, pretty decent on the bank. One of the higher wall rides that we've seen. Not all the way up against the wall, but very, very fast through that first inside clip. As Pat Gooden tries to surge forward here. Odie taking advantage of this lower bank here, staying deep and getting out at the right time and on that second hash mark here. So Odie Bakshi's, Pat Gooden, run number 1. What's your take, Ryan?
A really great run, pretty clean from Odie up front. Like you said, he got pretty close to that wall on outside zone 1. Unfortunately for Pat, he had a really lazy initiation, a little bit late as well. So that's going to be held against him for sure. And we'll have to see how he does in the lead position now.
All right, so Odie Bakshi's will be giving chase. Pat Gooden, here we go. Look at that smoke lingering. You barely see through it like a thick fog. The sun and the smoke creating kind of a smoke screen here as Gooden, nice on the bank. Look at Gooden hanging it out there, leaving it all on the track. This is the final round. Can Gooden get in the way of Odie Bakshi's effort to finish top 3 right now? Gooden is on fire. Pat Gooden Odie Bakshi's closing the gap. A solid lead run there from the king of spring break.
Well, 1 run down, second run in the book here. As we take a look at the replay, you can see the sun playing a huge factor. That's got to be very, very difficult for the drivers as they come off the bank and down into the intersection here. You can see that separation happening. Odie sees it, gets back on the throttle, tries to close the door here, but Pat is out front doing a great job on that lower bank. And then right here, nice and tight on that inside clip. Good driving from Pat Gooden out front.
Okay, as we are now waiting for the verdicts. Are we going one more time, or is it going Pat Gooden? Pat Gooden had a great lead run. What's going to happen? What's going to transpire here as Andy, Ryan, and Brian? Pat Gooden, Odie Bakshi's slide him right for Odie Bakshi's. Lantain, that is unanimous right there. Pat Gooden had a good lead run, but you guys are unanimous.
It came down to his initiation on both his lead and his chase. They were late both times, so it's a pretty serious thing, you know, in terms of initiation. If you initiate late, you're going to lose a lot of points in qualifying, quite a few points in qualifying, and it's really an important part of the whole tandem run that you're doing. If you're not initiating at the right place, it's easy to get a little bit of a run on the chase car and set yourself up a little bit better.
Okay, so as we are seeing advancement on, thank you for your explanation. It did look exciting, but it's all about timing. Here we go. Matt Field picking up a Gears of War 4 sponsorship for this round, and talking about the Gears and the War. He did it in Texas, and he came out on top for his first ever win. Here comes Matt Field out front. He's leading. Kenny Moen in that Gotbill BMW coming us from Norway. Matt Field, the beast from the Bay, throwing it in. Look at Kenny Moen right there. Ooh, Matt Field throwing a little bit more gangster, a little bit more attitude towards the end of that rear clipping zone. Field coming to that second rear clipping zone. Kenny Moen going deep to very aggressive drivers. What do you say? Irwindale and around the globe. Field and Moen. Oh, Moen, a counter. Was that before the finish line? To the naked eye,
we'll certainly want to keep an eye on that. That may have been the biggest moment of this run. But look at this. Matt Field super high on the bank. Comes off a little bit there. Slight wavering right there. But Kenny Moen really paying attention to proximity through that smoke line on the big bank. Now as we enter the lower bank here, you can see a tiny bit of separation as Matt is on the throttle. Kenny playing catch up here. Then he surges forward here. But watch this. Ryan, does he unwind? Oh, it was very, very close. Was that too much unwinding from Kenny Moen?
Well, that's going to come down to each of us individually. If you want to, if each of us individually wants to zero that out, then that's up to them. I really liked Matt's lead, but we have to concentrate on Kenny's chase. We haven't seen a chase run that close, that early yet in this tandem competition today. So really, really great job from Kenny Moen throughout the course, maintaining proximity, gaining it quickly and maintaining it throughout, and also mimicking really well the transitions that Matt was doing. I saw a slight lift from Matt at inside clip 1, which I think gave Kenny even more opportunity to get inside as he transitioned to outside zone 2.
So let's see how Kenny Moen does out front. The Gotbill Achilles Radial BMW and the Drift Cave lead caveman that is Matt Field, the beast from the Bay, San Jose, California. The Gears of War 4 coming out next Tuesday, October 11th. Matt Field on Falcon tires, worked on by Black Tracks Performance. Vortex supercharged LS under the hood of the S14.5. Here we go. Kenny Moen out front. Matt Field giving chase. Moen initiating strong, big angle. Mid to high line as Moen staying high. Matt Field dropping in. How's he going to handle this? Is he going to apply the pressure? Is he giving enough room? Is he closing the gap? Moen coming off the wall way early. You can see that line indicating the track and then overshooting that final front clip. Powering through. Ryans, what do you say?
Well, certainly Moen, yeah, if you're watching at home, we just had a tire come off from one of the vehicles. But let's take a look at the replay again real quick here. Really, the inside bank is going to be the big factor. Matt Field in the lead here. As Kenny Moen trying to chase him down. So this is run number 1. We'll take a look at run number 2.
So Ryan, with just an interesting turn of events there as Field and Moen. Let's take a look. I think we know which way this is going to go. And yeah, just after the finish line, the crowd was like, "What?" So here we go. Moen and Field, Andy, Ryan, and Brian, and Matt Field gets the win unanimously. Matt Field unanimously gets the win. Local time 6 o'clock. We have one more battle left, and it is a doozy. It is a big battle. It is a big battle here. Championship implications, not only the victory here at Irwindale advancing from the 32 to the 16, but Frederick Aasbo, your defending champion in the final battle of the 32. Already in the 16. Dio Shihara goes against Stoneback. Blues against Rintanen. Chris Forsberg, your championship points leader, 2009 and 2013 champion, as well as, 2014. Forsberg going against Mordant. Justin Pollock versus Hilbron. You have that of Ryan Turk against Ken Gushi, Mad Mike Redette, but Ryan Turk will advance. Tyler McCoy against Charles Ng. Forrest Wang against Odi Bakshis. And finally, Matt Field against one of these drivers. So, just an update to the schedule. As you saw, we had some delays and everything unfolding as far as the one more times. Our new opening ceremonies time is 7:30. that is when we'll introduce you to the drivers, have our national anthem, and kick things off for the top 16. Local time is 6 p.m. So 7:30 will be our official opening ceremony times. So again, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time will be our top 16 opening ceremonies and national anthem here at the House of Drift. That is the O'Reilly Auto Parts title fight, sponsored by Gum Out. Here we go. Championship implications on the line. How is this going to transpire? The Norwegian Hammer, is he going to advance? Or is Carnage, Dean Kerney, in that Oracle Lighting Gas Monkey Energy Dodge Viper applying the pressure. But Frederick Aasbo holds stumped. That's his motto, that's his saying, and and Dean backs it in to the second rear clipping zone, spinning out. Aasbo continues through the course, and it looks like that will be a huge advantage for Aasbo, and he was in fuego out front. Look at the next entire smoke throughout the track. Ryan?
Well, you know, I was going to really put some emphasis here on the chase run by Dean. Unbelievable on the bank as Frederick was nice and high. Got to have a good lead to have a good chase. But right here, Dean just makes a massive mistake on the inside here. Gives up that big-time chase run advantage that he was having on the bank there. And Frederick Aasbo now is one half of his way to being able to compete against Chris Forsberg for the championship.
So you can see Dean Carnage Kerney there in the Oracle Lighting Gas Monkey Energy Dodge Viper. He spins out, he rotates. So again, it's an interesting turn of events here as Frederick Aasbo, as you said, has the advantage. So it does bear repeating. 7:30. 7:30 is our opening ceremony's national anthem opening. All right, here we go. Dean Kerney out front. Frederick Aasbo giving chase. Dean Kerney initiates. Frederick Aasbo right there. You got to think some confidence underneath the helmet of Aasbo. The Achilles radial's being lit up here in Frederick Aasbo's face. Dean. That's what Dean was looking for on that first run. Unfortunately, that did happen, but his hardworking team replacing the engine, get him back out here. A great lead run, but unfortunately too little too late with that mistake on the first run for Dean.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty inconsequential here on run number 2. Obviously, we would require Frederick Aasbo to get a 0 on this run in order for there to be a forced one more time. But you can see Aasbo keeps him in his sights. Dean is running pretty solidly here with no major mistakes from Frederick Aasbo. This will be our last battle in the top 32, and we now have our top 16 set for the final event of the year.
Well, again, we'll make it official here momentarily. Lantain, that was a pretty solid chase run there on that first run, but yeah, oh, sorry, let's do this. Here we go. So, Ryan, it's okay. You can take your headset off. It's all right. This is official. Dean Carnage Kerney, Frederick Aasbo, slide him right. Frederick Aasbo is still in it to win it. We're talking about here at IRWINDALE and the championship. So our top 16 is set. We'll be back here live at 7:30 for our top 16 opening ceremonies on behalf of the whole staff. Thank you guys and gals, drifting fans across the globe. This is the O'Reilly Auto Parts title fight, sponsored by Gum Out, and this is the final round of the Formula Drift Championship presented by Blackview Dash Cameras. We'll see you back here at 7:30 for the top 16, and we won't stop once we begin there at 7:30 until we find out who wins here at IRWINDALE, and eventually who wins not only the World Championship but the championship of the Formula Drift Championship presented by Blackview Dash Cameras.